which we're going to jump right into. Let's do it. Peru Unite versus Gen 5.
You know what I'm looking at? I'm looking at Zinus, who had literally one of the best Inteleon games I think we've ever seen from an individual player. We've seen the threat and the risk that some of these teams run if they don't ban Inteleon, especially over the past couple of series.
There you go.
And I am so glad when stuff lines up like this, it somehow shows that I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well done. Predicting the Inteleon ban Gen 5, a similar mind to yours, it seems, Relic, that will give KO the chance to lock in this Psyduck. Rex claiming the title of Best Duck NA. Let's see if KO can take it for LATAM South here. Gen 5 going to be early picking that Slowbro, though.
Yeah, I actually quite like that. First and foremost as a counter to the Psyduck, but potentially seeing what else Peru is going to cook. And check that out, an Urshifu steal away from Utao. Of course, Megu, we've already covered, has taken that Zacian away from Tempo. Locking in the Hooper, again a reminder, has to be a trick Hooper on this stage. Not that that's a bad thing, I think there's plenty of synergy that they can enjoy. Still waiting for this fourth pick. Lunder with the Espeon, bit of secure on the objectives.
That's really interesting, especially because what we just talked to Zugrug about on stage, about how, in that case, Flareons has been playing a lot of attackers who don't really need to scale, and so Zug really likes playing more defenders that have higher late game thresholds. Slowbro not really going to be the case, but whoa, Peru Unite going to be picking up a 3% pick rate, a Alolan Ninetales, one of the best anti-dive attackers that we have in the game, and Tempo is going to be locking in that Mimikyu. Likely going to be a Trick Room Mimikyu, by the way. Tempo loves that build, plus the Razor Claw really works well with it. With the constant use of the moves, each of those dashes will start triggering your Razor Claw.
Okay, Utao. So I think that's a really good counter to what we're seeing. I mean, the synergy with Peru, it's kind of clear for everyone to see. Surf Psyduck, Psychic Psyduck, that's a lot of CC on top of the Ice Fang from the Mamoswine. You're looking to try and feed that Urshifu, feed it into the various snow-related debuffs that you can find with Zinus on that A9. Very different of playstyle, obviously, to the Snipe Shot Inteleon, but I trust that he knows exactly what he's doing. Of course, Tempo, I feel like that's a like-for-like Zacian onto the Mimikyu. I agree with you entirely. I think when you've got so much CC from your front line and A9 as that support attacker, you want to run something that works well together. Trick Room, a fantastic idea in the making, which is leaning into why I think Utao has decided to go Greninja here. You got Dive with that Zacian. They might be quite tempted, actually, I feel, Megu, to go Metal Claw. We have seen them pick it up a couple of times this tournament already. Trick, of course, is going to provide that movement to try and avoid all of the various CC that Peru will attempt to try and place. But Greninja, a phenomenal kiter, always looking to try and get away from the danger whilst laying down the damage. Watch out for that Water Burst Shuriken on top of that. For the likes of A9 and Mimikyu, that's going to be a Danger Unite move.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see the path that Utah wants to go down with this Greninja. It is likely going to be a Water Shuriken double team build, especially with that Rapid Fire Scarf being attached with that band and everything. We're going to have some more auto attack themed Pokemon here. However, that full heal being equipped certainly leads to either really an all-in on the Unite move folks of the Greninja, which, if you remember a couple of patches ago, did get a really huge buff. You can Unite move quite a few times. However, no Energy Amplifier equipped this time. But let's get into it. Peru Unite versus Gen 5, game number 1.
Your orange Gen 5 and your purple Peru. And we're looking at that Mamoswine for the mid-game. We're looking at Urshifu and how early we can rotate. We're looking at Suzaru going for the steal on this Escalivir. Not going to find the orange buff. The Kubfu going to go toe-to-toe. Got a small rotate from Draken here, and Suzaru going to look to try and get away. Steals that Citrus Berry already. That's a little bit of value from this invade.
Really clean stuff. Magician is going to bring them that Citrus Berry. That's that unique aspect of Hoopa, basically having a third move with an extremely long cooldown to steal an enemy Pokemon's berry. It is going to give them a little bit of time, and the backup from Lunder will mean that Lunder picks up an early KO.
Going to join Utao. And Zinus has not found the Evo onto A9 just yet. Assaulted by a myriad of moves. Plenty of scores for Gen 5.
Great work from Gen 5. Of course, that invade does get stifled, but that does mean that the Swinub had to rotate into the central area as backup. Gives Megu more room to work. Lunder picking up that KO allows Utah and Lunder to get to work in the offensive. Great push, great decision making.
Sorayu all on their lonesome though. Peru looking to try and run the counter initiative. That A9 online, moving back, tempo, popping the XP, just looking to try and pick off this Altaria, find a little bit of EXP, feels that went over to Gen 5 ultimately in the end. Now looking over this indeed, he most certainly claimed there by Anemo up onto level 5 and confirmation of the Dark Bear.
All right, yeah, I mean, by far the more popular Urshifu, maybe North America withstanding, but otherwise we are going to be seeing this quite a bit. Anemo has had some amazing performances. Actually, think back to their performance at LAIC. One of their best showings was on this Dark Bear at that tournament, so would not be surprised to see an exemplary performance from them. Certainly a world-class player.
Feels bad for Draken. So close and yet so far to that middle evolution. Never mind, next battle toy is surely going to be reserved for them. Good pressure from Megu, 21 scored on the bottom path here from that Mimikyu, 30 to 49 early scores.
Big Gen 5 rotate into the bottom path, and KO unfortunately goes down immediately. Utah with a red buff is just doing so much ridiculous damage with these water shurikens, and of course the red buff effect slowing these enemies they can't even get out of range. The amount of damage from the mid-range from Gen 5 is tremendous. Espeon and Greninja, I mean, they're just barely staying outside of a Alolan Ninetales danger threat, but they're hitting way harder.
Swine finally there. Look how much catch-up EXP still to fill for Draken, who goes into the back line, attempting to punish Shizuru, who finds the safety of the net. Meanwhile, Megu up to level 8, starting to get a little scary, even for the dive of Anemo here, focusing on their own wild Pokemon, certainly lining up here for an early Regieleki encounter. Meanwhile, Gen 5 look to have free real estate on that southern Reggie.
Yeah, Kea staying down here mostly as a protector to this Tier 1 goal zone in case Gen 5 chose to push really hard into the bottom side, but instead, they actually choose to push into the top side a little more aggressively. Peru Unite caught unaware.
Sorry, with the surf and great work from the Dark Bear, perhaps to be expected with the Wicked Blow. Megu going to have to pull back here, picks up the Citrus Berry courtesy of the Magician in waiting, Shizuru. That Regieleki ain't going to be moving any further. Peru not looking to push the issue. Again, they're quite worried already at this stage, Zoinks, regards to the level situation. Plenty of yellow dots on the minimap. And check out Shizuru, who's getting a little bit spicy, looking for further invades, just trying to disrupt Peru as much as possible.
Yeah, Hoopa's movement speed the way it is with that trick, you can really just play so aggressively. Even if you're just planning on heading to the bottom path, making your route instead go through the enemy central area is going to give you that much more information. Potentially someone like Utah or Lunder could capitalize on it. Now, not going to be the time. Instead, they are just being patient and farming up their levels quickly as they can. This is one of those moments in Pokemon Unite where there's no clear objective to be focusing on, so both teams are just waiting for an overextension from either squad, and they want to really try to make a team fight push.
It's game 3 of the tournament between these two. First in this series, of course, but a very similar feel to Friday. Very tactical, very considered. Ebon Fist, and chooses to run away. I think a smart move from Anemo there, especially with Megu lurking. Psychic attempting to catch out Utah. Level 11 at 5.5 minutes. Yikes.
Yeah, I do like Peru Unite's option there. They go for the Hoopa initially. They have to reel back, but it was because the Hoopa's only at level 8, so no Unite move to speak of. Lunder with barely any HP takes that KO. Nice little 1v1 situation, but I think on paper, Peru's plan was correct. It just felt like they didn't have enough staying power, but it's only an Alolan Ninetales in that danger zone.
And Dragon not even close to level 9. We may be looking at 430 before that Mamoswine is finally brought into the close. 30 to 49 then, as we pass half time on our next Reggie phase on the way, just seconds away. Soreu already picking up position. Big Shadow Sneak, interestingly, from Mimikyu, who does find the KO onto the Espeon, make that a double with Soreu falling quickly. Really strong look here from Peru Unite to start to position around this Regice. KO moving back, but there's the slice and dice from Megu. Big A9 Unite move, but it's not going to be enough because the Sovereign Sword, I believe, they're ultimately swinging it in favor of Gen 5.
Yeah, an incredible secure tool in its own right. We go on and on about Wicked Blow, but Sovereign Sword, and of course that Water Burst Shuriken, two fantastic options for Gen 5. So Gen 5 keeping EU's hopes alive with another objective secure. The only problem for, honestly, both these teams is they have not been able to translate these team fights into anything points related, largely because both these teams are focusing a lot on squishier attacker-based compositions, so they don't have a lot of bulk to push into these goal zones, but still, it is a dangerous prospect that you have that early game lead, but still not much to show for it in terms of the scoreboard.
Peru hoping to catch Gen 5 napping there, all 5 on bottom path. Nice Ice Fang, feeds it into the blender, and KR ultimately coming out with the KO, so that's Shizuru done and dusted. But like you say, Zongs, they just can't find much more than that. A KO here, a KO there, focus on their own central area, try and at least try to catch up to Gen 5. I mean, again, looking at the level 13 Greninja, finally they see just one defender on this T1 pad, and it feels like the floodgates have opened. The first zone taken down at 3.5 minutes, but they've had to give up the Regieleki to do so.
Now, how quickly can they defend that against this Regieleki? It looks like they were making a push towards tier 2. KO will do so, but I think as soon as they saw Sazero, the rest of the team had to peel back. The threat of a Hoopa Unite move to bring them and defend that tier 2, as well as scoring on tier 1, could have been catastrophic. So KO getting in 40 is a great bonus, but the rest of the team reeling back. I think a great decision by Peru.
It's a big overdunk, but I completely concur with you, especially given that they now have the lead. And in a game of such fine margins, you really want that lead, minuscule as it might be, going into the Ray Pit. We've already talked so many times today, Zoinks, about how the onus is on the team behind to make that move. And we've seen so many times previously how Peru is able to lay the traps and not give their opponents any opportunity to bring them out of position. Speaking of, Surf into the middle of basically everyone. Soreyu ain't going to get away with that.
Yeah, I can't believe Utah took that much damage. They got hit by not only the Alolan Ninetales, but also the Psychic from the Psyduck. They got down to such low HP. Utah eventually having to retreat all the way back from that team fight. That does mean that Peru Unite is going to lock up that Regirock. Gen 5 just simply cannot risk losing a level 14 Greninja before the 2-minute final stretch. They recall, they're going to be safe. Megu also completely unnoticed by anyone from Peru Unite is going to be playing all the way around to the top left side of the map. Going to have that tall grass all to themselves.
Tempo on the precipice of level 13. That is that A9 up to level 13, leading the lobby Utah. But you do sense that Peru, the favor has swung towards them. Megu, as you rightly say, unnoticed in this tall grass. Big, though, big send from Draken. And again, Soreyu's caught out. Hasn't resorted to the slow beam just yet. Attempted flank from Kea, eating a lot of damage to do so. The headache pops off. No KOs as of yet.
Yes, just to walk away. Soreyu saved by Trick there a little bit. Absorbs a ton of damage. Great Shadow Sneak in the back line. Espeon Unite move to respond, though.
That's a big chase down opportunity. Still not able to find the KO. Neither team really. Bringing the party, the Hooper unbound. Sazura laying the stuns down, but not finding anyone just yet. Draken in the retreat. Zinus has not had a single speck of health lost in this entire thing. Gen 5 now looking for the rip. It's going to be Slowbro going down first. Eaten by the front line. Coin flip! And the Sovereign Sword far too early. Peru popping off.
Alolan Ninetales going to get the secure on that one. Will be the only player KO'd, so 4 players from Peru Unite will have that Rayquaza shield as they go and dump in those points. Really crazy situation. No Slowbro to speak of, thanks to an amazing stun by Kea and great capitalization from that Ice Path of the Mamoswine and Alolan Ninetales. That explosive combo damage is exactly what Peru Unite was trying to build up within their draft.
Slowly but surely, you just felt Peru growing with confidence, asking Gen 5 questions that they simply did not have the answers. And because they burned so much time trying to play this Ray Pit sweetly, they've left themselves with no time to respond. Still, we have tempo with this Ray Shield. Soreyu eating so much damage, just doing a bit of a spin. They know it's over, Gen 5. First point to Peru.
Wow, what a start to this series. I mean, Gen 5, like you were mentioning, having a fantastic early game in that scenario, but Peru honestly playing extremely safe. That was one thing I think I even out loud said, wow, during that Rayquaza fight, at how patient those teams were being. You would have an exchange, and they felt like they were both getting good retreats. See the Shadow Sneak this time around? I think it is the superior move, but it was being body blocked by Soreyu quite a bit. That is the toughest part about Shadow Sneak, is if defenders are going to be body blocking those shots, it does render it rather useless.
Yeah, I think honestly, Gen 5 was probably expecting the Trick Room themselves, which is why Soreyu was maybe feeling a little bit more interested in going for the body blocks and stepping up, perhaps a little bit overprotective of Gen 5, conservative, the word, which I 100% agree with. First ban's on the table. We got Umbreon, we got Blissey. Peru first pick, not going to allow Zacian to go through. I imagine they're going to try and lock in the Psyduck first up. Gen 5 not wanting Zinus to head onto the Inteleon.
Yeah, I think you stick with these bans. I'm not upset about that phase of the draft whatsoever. I do think Gen 5 might want to reconsider the Slowbro so early in this draft and where we saw it last time. It does make Tempo have to be a little bit more careful about where we go, but this is a great draft decision. Urshifu being locked up immediately. They are going to follow it up with the one I just critiqued, but that's okay, as long as it's bookended by a fantastic Urshifu selection.
Yeah, this is a little more static a roster from what, because remember, we are praising the likes of Yutao, Soreyu, and Megu for all rotating onto that defender. Feels like Soreyu has kind of just said, look, Yutao, Megu, we need you on those roaming picks. We need you on the front line. I'll basically take the hit this time around. I'll just do what I can, and you can just do what you do best.
Okay, so expecting a little bit more bulk on the side of Gen 5. They're going to rotate a little bit more into the front-to-back strategy. If you don't have Inteleon or some kind of burst damage to follow up on the Psychics, instead, you can just go for very consistent attacks that will frequently come from that Mewtwo Y. Even worse when it gets Mega Evolved, but ooh, interesting response. Eldegoss and Metagross going to be their answers.
It's a lot of shielding if they combine well, and we know that Suzuru is the sort of player to synergize well with Megu, as we've seen plenty of times before. Final two picks then for Peru on top of this Mewtwo Y, Mamoswine, and Psyduck. Certainly the Psyduck Mamoswine combination I was really happy with. Is this really going to happen? The Glaceon is locked in.
Tempo?
It's the little pink monster that we're looking at. I don't think we've ever, I mean, it's got a pick rate of 1% apparently. I imagine that's the first time for today, possibly in UCS history.
Let's go. Tempo locks in the Tinkaton.
What's the Unite move name again?
Yeah, for sure. Tinkaton Unite. Anyway, I'm so excited to see that Pokemon locked in. This is so exciting. It's actually a really, really cool response to Metagross and Eldegoss, right? Thief being able to steal so much of those defenses, which is Metagross's best trait, one of Eldegoss's best traits. Going to be really fantastic to see that. Now, the biggest question mark is going to be how fast can Tempo get ramped up? For anyone who is unaware, Tinkaton does get larger and larger area of effect on their attacks the more they're able to land attacks on the enemy. All the way up to a stack of 60. We'll keep you updated on how it looks throughout the match, but basically, Circle gonna get bigger.
I wonder, we've got a wonderful stats team behind the scenes. I would love to know if this is the first ever appearance.
I think it is. Last time we had Gengar, it was also 1%. Oh no, it's been in UCS. We've had it in North America.
UCS before. Okay, yeah. Okay. But even still, a super, super rare look at something that has often been overlooked. But I completely concur with you. And again, this is why people just... Draft is so important. If you know you've got that one pick up your sleeve that no one is expecting, and especially in a situation, you could not have put it any better, Zoinks. Metagross is so reliant on hitting those spins, on spinning up with the shielding. You've got an Eldegoss as well there, even more shielding to concern yourself with on top of the heals to balance it all out. Get Thief involved in that.
Yeah, and it's going to be a Gen 5 that uncharacteristically is going to be focusing a little bit more in the later games, so maybe the poor little Tinkatink here will have some time to warm up. All yet to be seen as we get into game number 2 between Peru Unite and Gen 5.
0-0. All starts there, doesn't it? Peru in your purple, Gen 5 in your orange. Kea and Tempo moving into this top path. A little invade on the Beneries, a little early stack. It takes a little bit longer than I'm sure this Beldum would have wanted, and there will be no steal. Joining the fun, Suzuru. Megu attempting to move back, of course, using that tackle really sensibly to continue to speed up the movement. Picks up the 2 there. Now Tempo looking for a steal of their own on this little bunny. Lovely bit of the headache, but it's going to go over to the Beldum.
I honestly don't think Tempo's ever going to hit a wild Pokemon if they get the chance. They want to hit an enemy Pokemon with every single one of their moves, and whenever that little boosted gauge below their HP gets fully charged, that will also stack up the area effect. So Tinkaton just wants to throw hands immediately, early and often.
Draken looking for the early invade, by the way. Great work from Soreyu, just body blocking for Yutao, who's hit that level 5, leading the lobby alongside the Glaceon, who's going to rotate top. Yutao here with the Wicked Blow, going to take away all of those clouds. Here's Amino with a Kabi-chan's rotate, 4v2, and no Evos in sight for Gen 5. Easy scoring for Peru.
Yeah, a big push for Anemo, who, by the way, in terms of items, something that was interesting is running the energy amplifier on the Glaceon. Makes a lot of sense, that glacial stage extremely powerful, but also to note, it will be achieving it at level 8, one of those evolutions, getting their Unite move a little bit early. But hey, there you go. First time I've ever seen Tinkaton on the live stage.
Absolutely. Some more, I mean, it's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see whether it pays off. And look, just as if you can't get any closer between these two teams, 45 to 45 as we hit the 2-minute mark. Megu, though, might not be able to make it back. Indeed, they don't. Tempo starting to cook here.
We're already starting to see those anti-defense options. Thief was able to steal a little bit from Metang. Psyduck cruising through with that Surf for a bit of extra damage after that. It's okay, though. Gen 5 have other carries that they have on their squad, and so far, it's been Yutao's Urshifu that has been leading for Gen 5. Really, really solid performance, already taking a ton of the EXP in the middle of the map that was contestable.
As things cool down again, Zoix, I also want to point out in regards to Thief, it takes away the defense and special defense for everybody. So in terms of like, of course it takes it away from that individual, but it's worth mentioning that all of Peru will benefit from that.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, anybody who is targeting that Pokemon will reap the rewards, and we do have the Gigaton Hammer locked in. The big old swing, charge up, knock up, you love every piece of it. Kea is going to go there for the backup as Yutao and Sazuru are going to rotate down towards the bottom path where Peru is currently putting up an offense, but Metang going to go down. Megu going down here. Really bad news is Tempo going to level up quickly.
It's got to be a different game plan for Gen 5. Megu just getting so lost in the source. Why are you going up against Tinkerton, especially on your own? First Reggie's on the board. Regirock taking a bit of a walk, and so for both sides, really, you're not going to be worried about going after that just yet with the health bar resetting. Look at that little gremlin go. Look at those icicle shards firing into Yutao, who finds safety in the form of Sazuro here, but real good look from Peru, setting up shop. Psychic looking to pull Soryu back, but they catch out Draken. Excellent punish from Yutao. Joining the fray, it's Tempo.
All right, so they have Tempo in melee range, but they also have the Icy Wind to kind of count on in terms of secure around this Regirock. This will be an extremely close contest, though. Great Mew Unite move to give a little bit of invisibility around that main objective, and that is going to give Megu the opportunity they need. Great coverage, not allowing the Glaceon to target it.
Strength in numbers. Now Gen 5 looking to capitalize. In goes the Metang. Still, I mean, they're so close to Metagross and the Unite move. In fact, they're going to go down, selling themselves a little bit too far. The Ice Fang yet again, Dragon on this Piloswine, doing so much of the heavy lifting, quite literally.
Yeah, I mean, I love this Ice Fang build on Mamoswine. It uniquely allows you to not really need that level 9. When you're going on the other moveset, you really like to have the Unite move as kind of that final punch to the combo. When you're running Ice Fang, honestly, you don't need it. Piloswine's stats are still extremely solid and allows you to be a threat, honestly, from level 5 onwards.
Oh, sigh of relief for Megu as finally they get that Metagross online. Interesting Magnet Rise, by the way, to get a little bit more maneuverability in. They are very well aware of the threats that Kea and Draken are providing on the front line to help bring anybody within range into that Tinkerton's hammer blow.
All right, Tempo looking to get another push to the top side. That'll be a free 19 points, and there it is. Draken evolving into level 9 for that Mamoswine with a score of 19. Peru Unite has been leading score-wise for quite some time, and both those goal zones are extremely low, primed for some big overdunks.
Okay, there's the Compute and Crush, sets up the Colosseum slightly on the T1 zone. The Sai buying in so much space on the Glacial Stage 2. Wonderful response from Peru Unite. There's no KO in sight for Gen 5. Big slow beam, and still they're unable to do the job. Look at Tempo go! Swing that hammer, baby!
Every single one of those auto attacks, when given that Thief buff, had these huge area effects, big cleave damage from this hammer, sweeping across the entire squad, and a big jump into the air will honestly act as a celebration. KO really needed some stacks, maybe. I'm not too sure what happened there, but either way, Reggie like he gonna be the next target for this Peru Unite squad.
Tempo sending a kiss, kaboom to Gen 5's plans on this Regieleki. 160 to 45, and now an extra helping hand on this top path. Gen 5 looking to respond in kind, moving into the south path, but Peru is already set up with their front line. There goes the Mewtwo, throwing some psychic strikes. Gen 5 just Hail Marying it, and you know what, Zoinks, it has paid off.
Yeah, I mean, Lunder's Unite moves have been picture perfect around those. You give that mystical aura around the Mew while channeling it, you would provide invisibility. The other team is not able to clock where Yutao is on this Urshifu. There's no counter to try to stop these last hit secures, and if these bottom Reggie fights are anything how Rayquaza is going to go, that might be Gen 5's best look.
Tempo with a skip and a frolic into the backline, eating a lot of damage, but also giving Peru the opportunity to take down that T1, and there's more on the way. Draken again with the setup, 200 to 96. Some more stacks for Yutao, so at least they're getting online, but it's We're 7 minutes into the game, Zoinks!
100%. Yeah, I mean, Gen 5 is trying to keep pace. Level-wise, they're getting outpaced a little bit. Score-wise, extremely so. But at least Yutao's Urshifu is still becoming a very, very relevant threat. The problem is these objectives are going to be so scary into the late game. And whoo, but at least they got tempo at what has to be full stacks. You see where Ticketon is charging that Gigaton hammer, a gigantic circle, and honestly might be one stage below maximum. I think we can get even bigger on that hammer.
Yeah, 100%, and especially considering that we're now moving into the stage with that Gigaton hammer will have the most value. Everybody's going to be looking towards that Ray Pit, which means that there is more chance than ever statistically during a match to get as many bodies underneath that AOE. 30 seconds left, Zoinks. Gen 5 with a lot of thinking to do.
I'm honestly shocked Peru Unite is not playing this fight even more aggressively. You have this double attacker composition that is going to have a really tough time breaking it through a front line from Gen 5. They are going to be playing it kind of down the middle, which won't give Gen 5 much room to work with, but they will have access to that Rayquaza pit. They got Megu on the Metagross playing a little defensively and also trying to farm up, see if they can get to the level 13. Urshifu will get it, but just in the nick of time.
Right, you do not want to repeat the mistakes of game 1. You do not want to lose your Slowbro in the source. Metagross has rejoined the party. Gen 5 on full alert. Moving north. We've seen this play before. Maybe attempting to go for a score, but it would take more than a full hundo burger to upset this 200.
Yeah, this is a bit of a dangerous risk from Peru Unite to not be defending this goal zone at all, but it is going to put them into go mode here a little bit. Watch Tempo with 49 in the bottom path as well, but they're immediately retreating. The team fight's already beginning. Peru Unite with some early poke damage. Gen 5 with already an immediate response.
Immediately retract everything, don't they? Both Gen 5 and Peru.
Just like game 1.
On a knife's edge. You could really, I mean, you could cut the tension. It's that fine. More pokes onto Ray for Gen 5, possibly for Vision, for the Twisters. That can provide some knockups, maybe an opportunity, another Solar Beam. Maybe Gen 5, once we get into that 45-second margin, might risk another back cap. There's another Earthquake, and it's Sorayu once again into the slow beam. They have to make it count. Finally, a KO goes the way of Gen 5. That Mewtwo is gone, but there's still more to go. The Kiss Kiss Kaboom lands, but doesn't find anything until at last it's the Urshifu. Yutao's gone, and it's Azuru gone. Peru turning this around. Sorayu on the back foot. Lunda on that southern path, making sure that there's no counter scores. But Sorayu going top path. Fantastic read from Tempo. Nothing for you, good sir.
Wow, this game is so extremely close now. Only 4 points are going to separate that team. Nemo and Kea were having a great match. But speaking of Kea, they're putting in 40 points in the back half now. They now have a huge lead with only 20 seconds remaining. Gen 5, one of the last 2 hopes of EU, need to turn this match around if they want to stick in this tournament.
You're not going to rip this. You're not going to do this. Once again, the clock beats Gen 5. Peru, cool as you like. They might be from Latam. But inside those heads, it's ice cold.
Incredible game. Ticketon's first ever stage performance, and Tempo delivers a W. 280 to 196. Absolute heartbreak for Gen 5 in that matchup. Felt like they were kind of playing from behind the whole time, but they had the level advantage at Rayquaza. So one of the things about Ticketon, you get a little fight hungry, you know, trying to make sure that your stacks are staying up as frequently as they can, and you actually don't spend as much time knocking out wild Pokemon and leveling up. And so they were going in with a deficit, but just great understanding of that team fight. Track and place really aggressively, finds the entire enemy squad, baits out some cooldowns, and can recall. Not to mention, Nemo and Kea had an absolutely incredible performance on the right-hand side of that final fight.